Hello, hello, my green skins. Two quick announcements. I'm going to be screwing around with the tablet reviews for a while until I figure out a good editing program for the videos. Next on the list is we are now streaming. We're going to be doing podcasts on YouTube and maybe on Rumble. So I'm thinking I'm going to do one on Rumble at 6 o'clock, and then I'm going to be doing the YouTube at 10 a.m. So you got two ways to watch stuff. On Tuesday and Wednesday are going to be my game plans, or Tuesday or Wednesday and Thursday. I'm thinking Wednesday and Thursday is the game plan right now. Who knows? Just keep your eyes peeled, my green skins, and we'll get started. So what are we going to be starting on? Well, we're starting on a classic, a show, SCTV. Well, when we talk about SCTV, we talk about one of the greatest franchise Canadian comedy sketch show of all time. They're not the best. The best was early Air Farce. That was the best. But this was at the time one of the best. And they basically had a crop of comedians that showed up from this. Rick Ramirez, John Candy, Harold Ramis, a small crew. And that small crew ended up making a movie spin-off. And I think they might have actually beaten SNL, the rival American TV show, at the time. I think they beat them to the punch when it comes to movies. And we're going to be talking about Bob and Doug McKenzie, Strange Brew. A very, very interesting movie. And what can I say about this interesting movie? It is one of the few times I'm absolutely surprised something like this was made. I'm also rather pissed off that this really isn't shown anymore in Canada. I don't know why. It just seems to have vanished off the radar. This is so 80s and so Canadian. It's not even funny. And it's one of the better Canadian fun little shows. And it's kind of amusing to watch these two guys do what they do. So let's break it down with the acting. So the acting, well, we have ourselves our two great actors, Dave Thomas and Rick Ramirez. Two underrated comedians out there, and some of the better comedians out there. Rick Ramirez is a well-known comedian in a lot of ways, and you would say if we were to put him on the comedian Mount Rushmore for Canada, like if we were to like the Canadian Mount Rushmore for comedians, I would say Harold Ramis, Rick Ramirez, and John Candy would be up there. And Brett Butt would be the last one because, Corner Gas is fucking surprisingly enjoyable even to this day. And both of these guys are good actors in some ways. The amusing thing is because I've looked into this a little bit. There's a lot of ad-libbing to this. They really did in a lot of ways just ad-lib half the stuff, some of the stuff they're spouting off. And it's kind of amusing that they did that, and it just kind of worked. And that is kind of funny how they did that. It's a little bit of A and B. Then you have Brewmaster Smith, Max von Sydow. Yes, Max von Sydow is in this movie, which is kind of hysterical. Then you have Lynette Griffith, which I don't know if I've seen her in anything. That's Pam Elsmore. And then you have the hockey, their version of the hockey guy that I can't remember his name now. Jean Leroux. I think he's supposed to be like a reference to like a well-known hockey player from the Montreal Canadiens. Played by Angus McInnes, which is kind of amusing. They get someone that clearly has a very English voice, very English man to be a Quebec person. And each one of them are acting quite good. And also we get the nice dog, which I think that dog is kind of fun, but it's a dog. I think they got two dogs to play the dog in this movie. Everyone acts quite well, but again, I got to give respect to Rick Ramirez and Dave Thomas because they also directed this movie. They had their hands in Strange Brew from start to finish, which is kind of amusing because there's a lot in this movie that I'm really going to have a hell of a time talking about the story. Next, we're going to be breaking down the music. Okay, where to begin with the music in this? It is some of the best and some of the most stupidest movie out there. First of all, their opening, the Strange Brew opening, fucking slaps. It's so good, shockingly good. And then, they have so many fun little moments in this movie. One of my favorite points in this movie is there's a scene where they're doing a little skit, and in the skit, it's like played quiet, like there's no actual music, but the TV is playing music from a cartoon, and that entire skit is basically played off while that cartoon music, it has a little like music in there. That's perfect. And that's the thing that makes me kind of funny with this. This movie does have that moment where if you look away, this is like equally kind of good and bad for that. It has those moments where you're like, what the hell? And the music really kind of works. It's one of those things where I'm actually very surprised at how often they use the music properly, and they do some interesting things in this movie that have some good moments and some of my favorite moments in this movie. The problem with this movie with that is the music can be perfect, and at the same time sometimes there's just no music at all. It's really, there's a lot of times where there is absolutely no fucking music and no background music. It's just them talking, and it's like, really, wow, like there's nothing there. Interesting. Next, we're actually going to break down the visual effects for this movie. So the visual effects for Strange Brew are quite good and also absolutely stupid. There are some weird, funny moments in here with the effects in this movie. They really do like to do the stunt jokes, and the stunt jokes are all over the place. There's a lot of fun. From, the hockey gear having spikes on the back for no reason in particular, just to have them there, to areas that clearly look fake but at the same time are kind of funny and neat, to it looks like they actually did do the majority of the movie is being done in a brewery, so it does work. It's for the time. We're not talking about high sci-fi here. We're talking about a very jokey movie. I would even go as far as saying that the visual effects in Spaceballs are far superior to this in a lot of ways. But it's not bad. And there's a lot of cool little scenes. And it works quite well. Next, we're going to break down the story. The story for Strange Brew. This is actually a interesting little movie for the story. We first start off with the MGM lion getting piss-faced and actually burps, which is a great start to two of the most drunkest individuals in Canadian history. Well, at least in Canadian. I'm not going to get into the whole Kevin Spencer cartoon thing. That's its own fucking rabbit hole. So, Canadian reference. They are screwing around, setting up that they're going to be like, oh, hey, we got to get to the sign there. So they go to their Great Canadian North sign and they go, ooh, do, 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 to kind of show out that they're here. And then they start shooting their movie that they actually got money to shoot their movie. So they start off with the movie, and then it just basically becomes a parody of a Mega Man slash superhero movie. You have Rick Ramirez and Dave Thomas dressed up like a freaking plastic bag, and Ramirez dressed up like a wannabe Mega Man wearing a Star Trek shirt and a freaking jock strap outside his pants, which is actually quite fun. And so they realize the movie's flopping, and so they decide, okay, well, we're just gonna fuck up the movie theater anyway. So they go to escape, and as they're trying to escape, they get caught giving money back to a family that was upset about this, which is quite funny. Our kids saved up to watch this movie. I'm like, okay. So they they escape in their crappy van, which is kind of funny that they have this like really crappy van. Although I will admit, there's a symbol of all the Canadian like teams on a on their van. It's like a hit list for the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is kind of funny because I love that. That's kind of amusing, and it's such an 80s van. So they go home, and that's where we get the fun cartoon skit. We also get the angry dog. Their dog that seems to subsist on whatever meat or scraps they put in the dog bowl, and whenever they and alcohol. That seems to be their two things. So Doug and Bob live with their parents, who I'm not sure if that's I know that voice. I don't know who that is. And they realize that, oh shit, if they don't get empties, their dad's going to kick them out of the house, and they don't want to lose their job. So they don't want to lose their house because they'll be homeless. And they don't want to live in a van. Rick, Rick does. The other one does. Doug's like, you can't live in a van. So they try to steal beer from the beer store with the mouse trick. And it fails. So they go to the actual brewery where the alcohol is being brewed. Now, insert joke. I'm not gonna really get too much into it. I don't want to ruin this movie too much. I want to give you a little bits and pieces. Next, they meet Pam. Pam is the daughter of the original owner. The owner had recently passed away. This unfortunately leads to them getting a job as mice detectors, and then they steal about $1,000 worth of alcohol from the place. Meanwhile, there's all this electrical issues. Like there's there seems to be something going on with the electricity. It cuts to them getting home, doing the beer, and then they're like, well, we don't want to miss our job. So they go and sleep at the actual place. And that's where it steps up to us meeting Max von Sydow's character, Brewmaster Smith. And Brewmaster Smith he kind of tells his evil plan. The game plan is to get people to drink their specially modified super ale. And if you drink their specially modified super ale, it makes you go crazy, and they can take control of you by using subliminal messages in music. And that they're going to do a world domination thing. So our two heroes bumble around, meet Jean LaRose, and Jean is like, oh hey, Jean LaRose, I was really sad that you went nuts there for a while and you ended up in the hospital. And so Jean is they're using subliminal messages to turn people into killer hockey players. And that's the game plan. So right now they're just testing it out by making people play hockey. Because Canadians in hockey, we innately have the ability to put on the skates and go and take people out with a hockey stick. The Geneva Convention didn't exist until we were in war. Tee. Okay, so our heroes are bumbling about, end up stuck in a hockey game with the evil hockey people. And after that, they unfortunately get their clothes stolen because the bad guy has decided that he wants to get rid of Pam and the other guy, the inspector, the other guy who's working with the alcohol, the guy who actually runs the factory. And so they steal their clothes. They take out Doug and Bob get taken out, and then they also take out Pam and this inspector for the brewery. Once all these characters are taken out, they put Pam and the other guy in 2 kegs, and then they send Bob and Doug, thinking that these guys are going to go do the mission right away, and they assume that that's going to cause a huge accident, and all 4 of them will die. There goes your problem. You know, they could keep control, and so Pam doesn't find out the secret truth that they're planning on spiking everyone's drinks, and kind of creating this super poison that brainwashes people. Now, unfortunately, we have 2 hosers, and the 2 hosers decide to go to their dad's place and get some beer and stuff, and they run into their parents banging. Well, you know, that's a rough day. And so the dog's pissed because he's like, well, where's my food, assholes? And so he feeds them, and then they give him I believe it was Doug. Yes, it was Doug. Doug McKenzie. Doug steals when they're bumbling about, they steal a floppy disk. And the floppy disk they give it to the dog, and then they fuck off to go continue the mission, to go drop this alcohol at this party. Finally, after a little bit, they realize the brakes are gone, and they're like, shit, the brakes are gone. What do we do? And so they're driving erratically, trying to figure out a way to deal with this, as they end up crashing into the water. Meanwhile, for some reason, they don't actually explain this, Jean LaRose is at the pier where they splash into the water. And he saves Pam, because Pam escapes the barrel. And the other one, and he ends up saving her life by giving her his oxygen, and he goes and drowns. We cut to, unfortunately, our heroes may have drowned. They got lost deep in the water when their van crashed in. Intermission time. Then they go down to find out to go retrieve the bodies. It turns out that they had so many empties in the back of their vehicle full of air. The boys, now with Jean LaRose, which they kept down there, are literally using the air in the bottles to breathe underwater for the last hour. I love this. It's so fucking cartoony. And so they end up having to go to court. First they end up in jail, which is funny because it's like just the amusing bit of them like just lying and lying and lying to keep the jail from hurting, to keep the people that are in the jail from hurting them. So LaRose ends up in a coma, and the boys end up in jail. Now the lawyer shows up to try to help them, and it's apparently the lawyer for the actual brewery. And so the lawyer for the brewery is trying to give them like, okay, well, I'm going to help you guys get out of the situation because you guys are in a bad way. We get a fun little moment where reporters show up, and we all know that reporters deserve a good ass kicking, according to this movie. As you watch the lawyer beat the crap out of reporters, according to this movie, reporters deserve to get their ass kicked. And fun and unique ways. According to Strange Brew, this is not my opinion at all. No, this is not my opinion. Strange Brew has this opinion. We get some fun moments where they realize that stuff's gone kind of squirrely at the trial for these boys. which gets a really fun bullets moment. Yes, bullets. Then we move to they end up stuck in in the very same mental asylum that Max von Sydow runs. He's been using the insane asylum patients to test to experiment on, to test his brainwashing fluids. So the heroes get saved by Jean LaRose, who saves everyone, including Pam, and they're all going to go there and fight the bad guy. So Pam and Rick Ramirez's character end up in one group, and Doug and LaRose end up in another one. Doug and LaRose are going after the big bad, Max von Sydow, and his partner, the brother of the previous brewery owner. He has, in a nutshell, he murdered his own brother to get power, money, and wealth, and to marry his wife, which is fucking gross. But neither here nor there. So, LaRose ends up taking out Max von Sydow. And Doug ends up taking out the new president, the new owner of the brewery. Unfortunately, Bob and Pam get trapped in a fun moment where they get trapped in this brewery, like they're going to be like drowned by beer. Unfortunately, they left a Mackenzie boy in there, and you leave a Mackenzie boy in a giant beer barrel, one of those things they make alcohol from. Doesn't work so well. So he saves the day. Cut to them finding out the secret truth that they're going to basically use the alcohol. The brainwashing alcohol is already on its way to Oktoberfest, which gets a really fun moment. I actually like the moment where the dad appears, does a ghostly image, stop the stuff at Oktoberfest, and at the end he's like, great side effect, eh? I love that. That is so fucking Canadian. It's not even funny. So the good guy, Bob and Doug have the great idea of sending their super dog, to go to stop Oktoberfest, and they win. They end up winning at the end. The good guys, they end up also getting an entire truck. Oh, not still, sorry. An entire transport truck of alcohol, which they end up stealing at the end of the movie, which is fucking hysterical. That's how the movie ends. Cut credits. What a fun moment. What a stupid moment. These guys are scummy as fuck, but they're also scum that you want to root for. So that's kind of fun. Next, we'll get to the rating. So, I have a lot of nostalgia for Strange Brew, and I can't deny that this movie makes me laugh. And I enjoy this movie a little too fucking much sometimes. And I think this is a great movie. It's worth a watch. I actually, okay, for the last thing that SCTV came out with, it is one of the better things that SCTV came out with. And it's sad to think that was the last thing that they ever kind of created. I know there were talks of redoing SCTV. I even remember hearing they were going to do something, but if it's anything like what happened to poor Air Farce, I think it's best to be left alone. This was a good movie. I think Rick Ramirez and Dave Thomas should be given credit for it. It is a stupid movie, though. This is Dumb and Dumber level stupid in some ways. Just a little bit more fun than Dumb and Dumber. It's rather enjoyable, and definitely if you ever get a chance to watch this movie, watch Strange Brew. What am I rating Strange Brew? Well, I'm going to rate Strange Brew. I'm going to give it a Canadian 10, because Yeah, I'm giving it a 10 for that, for Canadian. But actual rating, I'm going to give it about a 7. I think that's a solid 7 movie. It's a fun comedy, definitely worth a watch. And definitely fun enough that if you were to sit down and watch this and just have a couple drinks and have a pizza, you'd like it. Now, I gotta warn people, this movie is super fucking Canadian. So half the jokes you're either gonna get or you're not. That is literally it. Like, this movie's insanely Canadian. So, warning you in advance. Alright, I'd like to thank everybody listening to me, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, like I said, like, subscribe. Streaming's going to be Wednesday and Thursday. I'm debating between one being an early morning stream and one being a later stream. We'll figure it out as we go. I'm sailing the ship on a northerly wind. Hopefully it doesn't rip the sails. We'll see how it goes, everybody. Have yourselves a very good night, and we'll see you next time on Orc War Chief Reviews. Ciao.